So look, what he's here, he gets his ribs right up on my, so you make sure, like you can, for now, I always feel like you can never be higher. Right? So if your rib cage is kind of, as long as his chin is on the shoulder, if your like rib cage is filling up that space under my neck, that's all good. Because I'm going to have to turn all of this to go, right? If my shoulder is, if I have this kind of tucked a bit, I mean I'm kind of lower now, I'm having to connect base more with the ground, but like it's hard for me to turn. Because this rib cage is like, you know, it's kind of filling the space if my chin was up. See how high he is? So look, as this shoulder begins to turn in, if I do manage to get under his chin, what Dan wants to do, what he was just doing, is to angle that leg. So you see how his foot is on the ground and your toes are up in the air. So look at what happens to this frame now. He's basically doing a squat on this side. See how his foot is based on the ground. Can't do a squat on your toes. So when he's square, he can go back to being square, and his toes, so go back to square now with your toes. Put your knees in there. Yeah, and up on your toes. Right, but the minute I start giving him real attitude here, and start telling him, look at that, there's no way. That's absorbing it. Whereas if Dan's on his toes with that one, I just look how his toe starts to move. That becomes a fight. So he just wants to angle his hips, which is what Pete and I were discussing on the guard passing at the beginning. You can go on your toes, but the minute you feel like your toes are getting driven backwards, or you're not generating force from being on your toes, because the guy's changed the angle, right now I've got to really get some base, at least on one side. I need something that's going to stop him pushing me. Does that make sense? So being on your toes is good as long as you are generating force and the guy's pushing into you. But the problem sometimes with being on the toes is, if he starts to change that angle on you, you're on your toes and you're getting deflected and you start sliding. Everyone see that? So if they get the shoulder under, you now need to sprawl. That's the basic crux of it. That's a sprawl, going on one foot, getting base and letting that frame absorb. So it's actually his knee opens. So rather than him let me, like if he feels his foot is going to slide, he opens his knee. Just let me know. Just like, yeah, exactly. And now you can turn that knee back in when he wants to push. Versus go on your toes and turn in. It's not fighting and making his feet move. Yeah? Let's give that a go.